In the last year and a half, the 49ers have seen more wholesale changes at the defensive line than any other unit group out there on this football team. With changes comes opportunity, but also big changes. There can also be a negative side effect and slowed growth. Well, on today's show, we have, frankly, amazing news for the defensive line coming from an insider report. A huge growing headache for Kyle Shanahan at the tight end situation, and Jennifer Lee Chan's take on her most under-the-radar player. You're going to want to hear it. Not just who it is, but why she chose him. If you're new here, I'm Nate, and welcome back to Sports Talk San Francisco, where we are talking the Niners every single day on this football channel, YouTube channel, but it is a football channel. It really helps me out if you would hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Join the party. What are you waiting for? The first story is this. Jennifer Lee Chan was on the game and shared a very, very optimistic outlook for the defensive line. It's exciting, and I can't wait to play the clip for you because it has me pumped about not just the starters, but the depth on this football team. We're going to take a look at the depth on this football team. In fact, we'll do it right now because I got a question for you. And the question is, who are the two? I'm going to ask you to pick two. All right. I said biggest impact player down below, but I realized, Nick Bosa is going to be a pretty obvious choice for that one. So I'm going to say who's the next most impactful player, or the two most impactful players on the line this year. So we agree on Bosa. That's one of them. Who's the other? Is it Leonard Floyd? Let's go ahead and take a look, actually, while we're talking about this. Let's take a look at this unofficial depth chart, I guess we can call it. Leonard Floyd, of course, is, I think, going to be opposite Nick Bosa. Has had great stats over the last handful of years, getting 9.5 to 10.5 sacks every single year. Then you've got Malik Collins, who comes in, and you're kind of hoping he does a real job at stopping the run. You hope that he really helps in that particular area. But we can't forget about Javon Hargrave, who had a good but not great year last season and thinks he's coming back better and improved this season. And I say good, not great, as he claims, not as I claim. As he himself says, good, not great, could be better. We're looking forward to that. Then, of course, you have Yetur Gross-Matos, who has the ability to play inside and outside. Huge player for this football team. Kevin Givens and Jordan Elliott should not go unmentioned in this. We just, I don't know if we talked about Alex Barrett, maybe briefly on a recent show, but Alex Barrett, showing from the third string level that there's some stuff there. All right. We'll have to see if he makes the team. T.Y. McGill also fighting hard for that position. All right. Let me know in the comments who you got. Let's assume Nick Bosa's already there. So you can put Nick Bosa or you can just skip. I guess don't skip Nick Bosa because people might actually think you think he's the number one. I don't know. I kind of messed this thing up here, but you get what I mean, right? Who's the biggest impact player in addition to Nick Bosa in 2024? Whoops-a-daisies on the framing of that one. I think you can figure it out. All right. Well, here we go. This is the interview from Jennifer Lee Chan. All right. I'm really excited about this one. I want you to get a good listen on this. On the state of the defensive line. So they were talking about a lot of aspects, really specifically interested in what she had to say about the depth at defensive line. I believe she said now her 11th year covering 49ers training camp. Here you go.
Not too much. I mean, you got to look at also, the guys that they brought in, Randy Gregory and Chase Young, didn't produce a whole lot for them. They've got to find guys that have at least been in the system or, something similar to it, because it really is different. I think it takes a guy a little bit of time to really just focus on going after the quarterback, because a lot of guys Gross Matos is a guy who had to kind of assess and then think about going for the quarterback and then going for it. So to have the mindset of just going after the quarterback is a little different for guys. So it takes a lot of time. Sometimes it takes a full training camp. Sometimes it takes longer than that. Javon Hargrave said that it took him a little while. He doesn't feel like he played his best ball last year, and he was pretty good. So I think you're going to get a lot more production out of him. I think they're going to be a little bit more careful with him, giving him a little bit more rest, because last year he wanted to be in every practice to make sure that he was getting up to speed and, doing things the right way, learning the way of the scheme. So I think you're going to get a little bit more out of him towards the end of the season, just because he will have those veteran rest days. And then the guys that they brought in, Malik Collins looks really good. Jordan Elliott looks good. So, I think really at defensive tackle, they're pretty solid. It's whether they can get, the same production out of Leonard Floyd and Yetur Gross-Matos, the guys on the edge. I think that's where the challenge is, to have someone play opposite of Nick Bosa.
All right.
So, listen, I don't know how you felt about that. It kind of started maybe a little bit like, there's some challenge here to making these types of changes. But goodness, on the positive side, I love the shout out to Javon Hargrave. I'm a big fan of Javon Hargrave. I'm a big fan of him, not just because of the couple things he did down the stretch that were meaningful, but I really like him, and I like his size. I like his athleticism, and I like the ceiling, all right? Really, when it comes down to it, I think where we really needed help is at the tackle position. Love hearing the positive energy coming from Jennifer Lee Chan on the tackle position, and then on the edge is the part I'm least worried about. So that made me feel really good. Of all of the things, she's saying we just got to make sure that we get good production out of Leonard Floyd and or Yetur Gross-Matos on the other side of Nick Bosa. And I think both of those guys have very good reasons, different reasons, but very good reasons to be very impactful this football season. Firstly, Leonard Floyd, obviously, just from statistically speaking, and he has not had the help that he's going to have this season in terms of the pressure coming from the other side. So he's going to get a lot of looks. He's getting a lot of opportunities that he wouldn't have gotten otherwise for other football teams. Then on top of that, Yetur Gross-Matos maybe didn't have the best preseason game ever, but we're not judging how good these players are going to be based on preseason. All right. And if you are going to judge it based on preseason, you also need to give him credit for what he did in training camp. And he had some very, very impactful days at training camp. So, I'm optimistic on both of these guys. I think the depth at defensive end is really, really helpful, because if Leonard Floyd is splitting snaps with Yetur Gross-Matos and you just have full berries, full energy coming at you on the other side, and Nick Bosa, goodness gracious, how are you going to handle this defensive line? I personally rate them very highly. That's just my opinion. All right? Moving on, though, we got to get to this one here. This tight end headache that we got to talk about. This article right here from Kyle Madsen, Niners Wire, that is very interesting. We've talked a little bit about Jake Tonjes, and this is interesting. Listen to this. Going into training camp, it looked at the San Francisco 49ers had a mostly set tight end group. George Kittle spearheading the unit with veteran Logan Thomas offering that pass-catching breakup tight end the 49ers have been on the hunt for. Braden Willis figured to be a factor heading into the second season, and then camp would be deciding for whether the club would keep a fourth tight end. Two things make me feel really good right off the bat. One, all of the things that I said about Logan Thomas, I feel a little justified when other people that are way smarter than me, like Kyle Madsen, say, hey, we all thought this is what was going to happen with Logan Thomas. So it makes me feel better, all right? So I feel like, okay, it's all right. I didn't really blow that one. I didn't really. The second thing is whether or not they take a fourth tight end, which they have historically done under Kyle Shanahan. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But we have talked about that, so it's going to be an interesting one. They all got shaken up when Thomas was let go before the preseason opener. Now, Braden Willis and Eric Saubert appeared to be the front runners to snag roster spots, but veteran Jake Tonjes is making a strong case for himself with good showings in camp and the preseason. Is he a veteran? He's like 24, isn't he? Head coach Kyle Shanahan said he's not surprised that Tonjes, who spent virtually all of last season on the 49ers practice squad, has shown up in an uncertain tight end room. We got him in our practice squad last year, so we got to see a lot of him just on scout team and stuff, Shanahan told reporters on after Tuesday practice, and he's always done a real good job here, and he's taken advantage of his opportunities. He's mixing around at a couple positions, and he's going to make this decision tough for us. Love the pressure you're putting on. That's a good pressure. We talked about it the other day with linebackers, right? This is good pressure to be putting on your head coach. Don just spent some time at fullback in camp when Kyle Juszczyk wasn't lining up during practice, which means that if he doesn't get picked up by another team and he doesn't make this football team, he's definitely practice squad. He's also hauled in all 6 of his targets in the preseason for 49 yards. There's nothing particularly flashy about how he operates, but he's willing and capable blocker with a knack for finding space as a pass catcher. All qualities San Francisco would love to have in reserve, in a reserve tight end. Unfortunately, of course, blocking is something that Eric Sauber thrives at. He's certainly in the mix as the preseason winds down. There's now a path to him making the club out of camp, and that's impressive for a player who was largely an afterthought at the position when the camp opened. And I know, listen, like, I get it, all right? We could make the argument that Kyle Shanahan's just out there being a nice guy. Yeah, Matt Breida just giving me a headache for the decisions at running back, right? Like that kind of thing. Like he could just do that. He could just take a guy who we're all pretty sure is not giving Kyle Shanahan a headache right now, and he could be giving Kyle Shanahan a headache as like we're just trying to make the guy feel good, right? That's possible. He could also actually be giving him a headache. And based on what I've seen in preseason, just preseason, but based on what I've seen so far and based on what people that I respect have said about him so far, I feel like this is real. I feel like he really is putting the 49ers in a tough spot. And we've looked at the depth chart, guys. Like we've talked about the depth chart. Sorry, I got to push some buttons over here to make the depth chart happen. I think Cam Latu's pretty much out in my mind. I think he's back to in the hunt. I think technically you have to keep him on the bubble because of where they drafted him, because of where he played in college, because of what he represents. It's hard to take him off the bubble, all right? Because the team really wants to get value out of that draft pick, which has not happened yet. But I'm going to keep him on the bubble for now. I don't actually think he's on the bubble anymore. I've kind of moved on from that reality, all right? So all of that being said, when you look at who's in front of him right now, and if they take 4, he's on the team in my book. I don't see it any other way. If they take 4, that is a very lucky man. If they only take 3, it'd be very unlucky because that would be the first time in a very long time they've only taken 3 tight ends to my knowledge. So that would be unfortunate for him. I think he has done enough to be a step above Cam Latu. So we'll see what happens. You never know, obviously. Other thing I wanted to talk about is Jennifer Lee Chan's under the radar player. So she was asked, interestingly, they were talking about Tatum Bethune. We talked about yesterday's show. And she was asked, in terms of thinking of Tatum Bethune as a guy that maybe none of us saw coming, who kind of came out of nowhere, is there another player on this football team that for you as an insider who's there all the time at training camp, gets to see all the practices, for a person that's there covering NBC Sports, for NBC Sports Bay Area, right? Is there a guy out there that you're like, man, we are all sleeping on this guy. This guy's under the radar, and you better not forget about his name. This comes after, by the way, bold claim here, right after they asked her, what is the one thing, the worst one you've gotten wrong, worst player you thought was going to be great, whatever. And they were talking about a bunch of different players that they thought were going to be amazing and said on the radio that they was going to be amazing and they weren't. Here's what Jennifer Lee Chan had to say related to under the radar player that could surprise everybody.
I really liked the way Cowing played. I think the speed element that he can bring to the offense is something that they've been looking for a long time. I think they wanted it from Danny Gray. They didn't get it because he hasn't, been healthy. So I think Cowing, again, talking to Diameter Lenore, he said he's going to be the most important cover. He's smaller. And because he's smaller, he's like, you can't get hands on him right away. You have to be careful and you have to watch him, but you can't just let him go because he's so fast. I mean, that jet sweep, it didn't look like he was going to get a yard at all, and he ended up getting 19. He's so fast around the corner, and it looked like everybody had an angle on him, but they didn't. So, he's a guy. Kyle Shanahan has been waiting for a speedster for his offense for a while, and this could be the key to unlock it just a little bit more.
His Arizona.
Love that take. My goodness, what a take. And I know we've only seen one game, and it was a preseason game, so I don't want us all to get way too ahead of ourselves that we've all already done, if we're totally honest. We've all gotten way ahead of ourselves on this. But listen, she brings up a very good point. This is the kind of player that is going to fit really well into Kyle Shanahan's scheme. This is the kind of player that Kyle Shanahan's been looking for and has not turned out yet. So the speed, the way he turns the corner, I love the comment about his size and how small he is. And so the kind of challenge that a small, fast player gives you as a defensive player, trying to be as a tackler, like trying to figure out, I got to be close, but it's hard to get a hand on him, and he's quick. Like that's tricky. I love it. And of course, we all value players like that. We look at other teams that have players like that. We're jealous of players like that. And that's a great take from Jennifer Lee Chan. I want to talk about some other things that just came up out of today. I kind of like to end the show this way. For those of you that don't normally make it this far, I like to just point out any of the big things that I caught today that I wanted to make sure we had a chance to chat about. And the first one was this. The only player to get the best of Jacob Cowing today on a rep was Renardo Green, who broke up a tight window attempt to the wide receiver. With Isaac Yiadom still out, Green has ascended to the first team cornerback duties in the base package when Diarmid Lenore moves inside. That's exciting news. That's exciting news. We've talked about this a lot, but here's the decision for the team, right? Sorensen has to make this call. Like, if Lenore goes inside, who's your outside guy? And Diarmid Lenore is for sure the best player to put inside. Like, if you're when you're in the nickel system, when you're in the nickel package, like, that's what you want to do. He's the guy you want to put in there. I think it makes a lot of sense. So interesting then what this means for Renardo Green. And John Chapman commenting on that, saying Demo wants to play inside and the 49ers seem content to let him. 49ers might have 2 rookie starters week 1 with Dominic Pooney and Renardo Green, which is crazy to think about. I'm not sure I'm that confident personally in what I've seen from Renardo Green at the outside cornerback level. I think it's a downgrade from Diarmid Lenore. I'll just say it that way, right? Is it better than Isaac Yiadom? We'll have to wait and see what it looks like in real football. But this is exciting, guys. This is really exciting in my opinion. We got a lot of great rookies here. I think I turned the sound off on here so you can get a look here. Just a nice little pass. One of the favorite things I saw during training camp. I would do this every day. Favorite thing I saw today. We've been talking a lot about which wide receivers the 49ers are going to keep on the roster, and Chris Conley kind of is on that bubble, and he's the one who's kind of winning that spot a lot. So good to see Brock throwing Chris Conley the ball right now. Running back Elijah Mitchell has returned to practice. That's exciting. Want to throw that one out there. This is interesting from Ryan Hensley. BA has missed the entire offseason. Nothing confirmed yet, but it sounds like Brandon Aiyuk will get his 4 years, which is what he asked for reportedly, and it sounds like he's going to make close to $30 million per year AAV. He will be one of the top 3 to 5 paid wide receivers in the NFL. So explain to me, Hensley rightly, in my opinion, criticizes the 49ers, how the 49ers played BA and got exactly what they wanted. This is a tough to take, man. When I felt, I'll be honest with you, the reason I'm showing you this tweet is not because I want to be a negative Nancy. I'm an optimistic guy. I'm a positive guy, but I felt this way when I saw this news too. When I saw it was probably going to be 30, I was like, what? What do you mean? How have we gotten to this point? We've waited this long. It's August 21st as I'm recording this right now, and now we're looking at paying $30 million to Brandon Aiyuk. We probably could have paid him that anytime this season, and this offseason he would have taken it. Anytime. I don't know how these things go. I know that they're complicated. I'm not trying to oversimplify things, but this does feel like a loss for the 49ers. And I guarantee you, if this is the deal that comes out, if Brandon Aiyuk gets signed to $30 million, there are going to be 2 conversations happening. Number one is, hey, we're stoked that we get to keep an incredible talent in this football team. And that's that. I don't want to hide from that. I am stoked. But there's going to be massive questions around how the 49ers handled this. It's going to be very big levels of disappointment in radio, in podcast land, in YouTube land. There's going to be a lot of frustrated people in Twitter. My goodness, don't even go there. Don't even go to Twitter. There's going to be a lot of frustration around how this all got handled and how this all ended up. Now we'll see. Who knows what the guaranteed money is going to be and all that good stuff. We'll find out. I still think this football team is better with Brandon Aiyuk, and I can hang my hat on that no matter how much we end up paying him. But, boy, to go this far and to go through this much headache for, I know, we're just fans. Like, I don't want to make too big of a deal out of this, but to go through this much of a headache for the football team to have all this weird Aiyuk's not on the field. Jennifer Lean Chan even talked about it on the radio today. She was saying how, yeah, it's weird. It's weird out there. You don't have Brandon Aiyuk and Fred Warner kind of like chopping it up or not chopping it up, like fighting on the field. You don't have any of that intensity. That BA not out there makes a difference. So, yeah, not loving that. Just a overall perspective here that I just wanted to give there. 49ers final practice before preseason final. All running backs practice except CMC, who's working hard on side. The offensive line won out in practice today. Jalen Moore, Nick Zakel, Jake Brendel, Dominic Pooney, and Colton McKivitz. No Aiyuk nor Trent Williams, who's been at his Houston gym. Trent Taylor did not practice, running on the side. Bosa's a savage, and Cowing had 2 TDs. And you can take a little look here at Bosa. It would be fun to be that close to these guys, right? Oh, yeah. Come on. I need to see more from you, sir. He's so good. All right. Last one. Brian Baldinger on Dominic Pooney. In 2 games now, I haven't really seen a bad play. He knows how to cover people up. His feet move. He's got good length. He's got great size, which, by the way, good length is what everyone criticized him for. But anyway, we'll keep going. He's got great size. He's got good power. He takes good angles in the run game. I can't find a bad play. Maybe on some traps, he could take better angles. You can kind of declare whether they are trapping or logging the outside guy. But regardless, he looks like he belongs. He handles the stunts well. He covers guys up. I love his size and power and just the consistency that I've seen from him. I know they have to upgrade the right guard position, and I think he upgrades it right now. Wow. Could you take a better positive take on Dominic Pooney? My goodness, that was a mouthful of a positive and exciting take. What a way to end the show. Love the optimism. If you're still watching right now, comment below legend status. Comment it below right now, legend status, and I'm going to celebrate you because I'm impressed. You are here. You are dedicated. You're watching. It's been 22 minutes. Good for you. You're a true faithful, and the other people who didn't make it this far are also true faithful. I'll just, but my goodness, congratulations. Hats off to you. Thanks for sticking around. Comment below legend status, and I want to make sure that I give you the big up because you deserve it. Well done. Hey, as always, 2 days, guys. 2 days. 2 days. As always, what a time to be alive.